Episode 99, 2020 upcoming movies and shows.
Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast. I am Daniel Grove, your host. We also have with us Nate Gunn.
Hey, what's going on?
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about all the upcoming movies and shows for 2020. What a cool number. That's a great number for a year, isn't it?
Lots and lots of clear vision.
Oh man, so many many sermons, so many self-help stuff. It's just going to be all about that 2020 vision pun. And I mean, I'm no expert, but isn't like 2420 like better vision? There's another number. 2020 is not the best vision. So there's also that. Just saying.
Yeah, you're wrong. So technically in 2024...
Yeah, or whatever
you have clearer vision.
Whatever the number ratio is. I need to ask my optometrist friend, what's the best vision number? Because I don't think it's 2020. Anyway, we're in the future, okay? 2020 is like super futuristic. We should have flying cars and teleportation, but we don't. But what we do have is some really great sci-fi movies that remind us what we don't have.
Woo. Literally every year of my life.
Yeah, every time I wake up, we still don't have it.
Even when I was a kid, I was like, come on. Like, how do we not have this stuff yet?
Well, to any of you out there that are new to this podcast, if you just scroll through the names of our episodes, you will see, if you can read, that we have a large variety of just different topics.
Yeah.
But one of the things you'll pick up on is that we love movies. We love doing movie reviews. We love talking about predictions. And after we've seen a movie, how did it make us feel? What did we learn from it? The goods and bads, all that stuff. We love to tear movies apart. And we look forward to doing that this year for these specific movies. But for now, we could just look forward to what's coming out in 2020. And so we're just going to go over the movies, but also some shows. We've got some streaming shows that are coming out that we're looking forward to. And then lastly, we'll talk about some things that failed and maybe why they failed. I don't know. So let's get started with upcoming movies. I'll just start with my list, and I'll actually organize these chronologically for all you super movie nerds out there. We're going to start with the early year and go to the end of the year. So first on my list is Mulan, March 27th. Now, we talked about this in our previous episode, Nerdy News and Stuff, and how it's getting some flack, some pushback. That's not true to the animated movie by Disney, but that's simply because this Mulan movie is actually a retelling or a film adaptation of the original Chinese myth. And I like this. This is what's causing the changes from the animated one that we're used to, but they're actually sticking true to the culture and they're respecting Chinese culture and traditions and myth. And I think that's a good thing, you know?
We're in no talking
2019,
dragon.
Almost 2020 now. When you hear this episode, it may be 2020. And we're doing some respect to the cultures that are not our own, and that's a good thing. So we're woke. So Mulan looks awesome. Got some really cool kung fu, some magic.
Oh, for sure.
Just beautiful music, and I'm excited. Next on my list is A Quiet Place 2, or as I'm calling it, A Quieter Place 2, on March 20th. You have to whisper the name. You can't actually say it out loud. Hey, we should do a movie. Oh my gosh, genius idea. We're going to do a movie review of A Quiet Place 2, but it's going to be ASMR style, whispering the whole time.
Oh no, nope.
Yes. Cha-ching.
No.
We're going to be famous.
No, we should just do it like in the first one where they do a lot of sign language. So for the viewer, hold on. We'll do it in sign language for all the listeners. You won't know what they're listening to.
So the podcast will be silent, but the YouTube video for it will make sense. What happened to the files? I don't hear anything. Oh, that's funny. Did you like Quiet Place?
I'm not going to lie. I didn't see the whole thing.
What happened?
You know.
Fall asleep?
I don't know. I just haven't returned back to it. Well, I like all the actors in it. I just haven't had time to go back and actually enjoy it. I was enjoying it, but, you know, it's just one of those things that you hang the hat on and forget to go put the hat back on.
I hereby assign you homework to finish that movie because it's a good one. And you're going to need to see it if you're going to see number 2 next year. So,
yeah, I'm going to get my whisper voice ready.
So I really like the first one. It's a very intriguing setup. It's kind of one of these stories where it sets up a universe with some rules and a lot of open-endedness, you know, such as survival and How do you live day to day when you can't make any noise? Like that's a really crazy setup. And a lot of stories can happen in that universe. And that's kind of what I read online from some interviews is like, this is a sandbox type universe where anything can happen. You could tell unlimited numbers of stories that could still be exciting and interesting because these rules that they've set up.
Yeah.
And now the second movie is a sequel, but it is hopefully going to be exploring the origins of the aliens. You may not know this, but they are aliens. This is an alien invasion movie. They're not just monsters, but they are from outer space. And yeah, so we're gonna get a little backstory maybe, and I'm hoping some global retribution to these aliens. I don't know, maybe a big rock concert.
Aren't monsters aliens already?
It's the semantics.
That's a fine
Yeah,
line.
there's a great area in there. I'm kind of hoping that they'll gather up all the surviving '80s rock hair bands and do a huge global concert with wailing and screaming and amps set to 11 and just blow off the eardrums of all the aliens. That would
Nah.
be a great conclusion. So I found a weird quote, and this is like, I don't understand it, but it's from Emily Blunt, who plays a mom. She's going to be in the second movie. And she said this isn't a sequel at all. This is the second book in a series of books. It's a widening of the world. So it's basically a sequel. I'm like, how is a second book in a series of books not a sequel? It's not a prequel. I just, yeah.
Okay. That's
Like,
a
okay,
long-winded
boomer.
version.
That's just like a weird quote that doesn't make any sense. So that's coming out. Next is Cyborg, which is a DC movie on April 3rd. And when I saw this, it made me smile because I didn't really know that DC was still going to go through with doing all the Justice League stories.
Yeah.
When we saw Justice League come out and there was like 3 whole characters that hadn't even had movies yet, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, are we gonna like do their origins? Because I don't know who Cyborg is. I don't we know the Green Lantern movie, but we also knew they were gonna remake it eventually, or we hoped. But yeah, they're doing it, and I'm like, yay, good job, DC. You're not gonna give up, even though Marvel whooped your butt. You're still gonna follow through.
And they close out a phase and they're still gonna whip your butt, so it doesn't matter. Just
Yeah,
keep
just go
trying.
down fighting. Um,
Yeah, everybody's like, ooh.
yeah, so Cyborg is an intriguing character that's got some cool cybernetic origins of some accidents. And we had the technology, kind of $6 million man stuff going on. And we'll see on April 3rd. After that, on May 1st, we've got Black Widow. Woo woo. Excited about that. Yeah, finally,
Finally.
after, what was it, 12 years? I think I counted.
Yeah, something
Ever
like
since her
that.
big reveal, I'm like, she's awesome. I want to see a movie about her. But no, we're finally getting it now.
I'm glad they waited because they narrowed down some of their errors and technology and stuff. So they've well polished. Now it's a good time for her to have a movie.
Yeah, definitely. In a previous episode, Nerdy News and Stuff, we talk a little bit more about the Black Widow. So if you really want to know more, just go back and listen to that episode. Next is Wonder Woman 1984 on June 5th. So this looks like an awesome butt kicking movie. We also talked about this in the previous Nerdy News and Stuff, but man, I'm excited to see this. Now, initially, including when we recorded that episode, we didn't know who the villain was. So I looked it up, and it's Cheetah being played by Kristen Wiig. That is so weird to me. Like, Kristen Wiig is a great actress and she's hilarious, but I just can't see her being, for one, a villain, and for second, I can't see her doing an action sequence. Like, that's just weird to me. She's a comedian.
Yeah.
Great actors have a lot more in them than you think, so I'm sure she's gonna amaze us all. But yeah, she's gonna play Cheetah, and interesting. Next is Green Lantern Corps on June 19th. Again, yay, they're expanding the DCU and doing some origins. I love Green Lantern. Actually, Green Lantern, I'm gonna say, is my favorite part of the whole DC like franchise and universe because I love Green Lantern stories because they're kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy of DC. Because they're all spacey.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I mean, there's a lot of Earth stories, but I feel like the Green Lantern Corps stories have opened up the DC to a lot of space stuff and space sci-fi ideas, and I like that.
Yeah.
I know we've got Superman from space, we've got some other villains that are from outer space, but like Green Lantern Corps is just such a huge, expansive network, and it's also a network of other heroes. There's other Green Lanterns per each planet, and every sentient race has a Green Lantern. And as a kid, I love seeing the artwork for the Green Lantern posters and comics because you see like 50 crazy aliens in one scene, and they're just the weirdest alien designs. Like there's a
Yeah.
whale. There's a an alien being that looks like a whale, and he's a Green Lantern for his planet. And then there's another one that's literally a
Yeah.
diamond with like legs and arms, and he's like a 13-dimensional being. I remember it's like an older comic, but yeah, it's just a straight up diamond. I'm like, okay.
So that means Ryan Reynolds might be
I,
coming
I
back.
hope he has a cameo. That'd be so funny.
But so a lot of people had an issue with a lot of the things he drew up in his mind for the lantern
Yeah,
powers. They're like,
pretty
why would
dumb.
he have a hammer? I'm like, look, have you seen the artwork? It's not that
A
far.
race car, really? Yeah. Kind of goofy.
Yeah.
I agree. So in this movie, the
Yeah.
synopsis on IMDb was intriguing because it used a plural, and here it is. It says this story centers on the Green Lanterns, plural, of Earth: Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and Kyle Rayner, and the rest of the Green Lantern Corps as they fight an interstellar war against Sinestro Corps, an army led by the former Green Lantern Sinestro, who are armed with the yellow power
Yeah.
rings, which I think was it fear or power? I don't remember what that emotion was for the yellow. And of course, they're seeking to rule the universe with fear. Yeah, I think it was fear. So we saw
Yeah.
Sinestro in the other movie. I'm kind of bummed that we're not doing a different story, but I am excited to see possibly 4 Green Lanterns in one movie. That's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's gonna be some cool action scenes there. Lots of CGI.
Or it's gonna be as bad as them
Oh no,
redoing
please.
Fantastic Four.
Ooh, better not be. Yeah, so there's that. Next is Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's on July 10th. Looks super fun.
Can we just stop and say that it looks like a Stranger Things movie?
Yeah, Stranger Things, the movie. Next is Eternals on November 6th. And honestly, I thought this was going to be a TV show, but it makes sense. They've got some high names in
Yeah.
there. Like, okay, that's movie budget stuff.
Well, the name just sounds like a
It
TV
does, yeah.
show. So
I thought it was
I
part
don't
of
know.
phase. Well, I mean, it is part of phase 5 or 4, whatever it is, but it's just a movie version of that.
Yeah.
So that looks like a big space opera, kind of opening up again, like Guardians of the Galaxy brought us into space. This is gonna like open up the history. Like, okay, ancient humans were,
Hmm.
founded by this race, and a lot of stuff about the Kree. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a big myth expanding kind of movie, with some great actors. Next is Godzilla versus King Kong, which is November 2nd. And this is going to be, looks like a direct sequel to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which was awesome and cheesy at the same time. I loved it. So we're going to get some really good Godzilla versus King Kong fights.
There's nothing wrong with big animals fighting that are bigger than cities, as long as it doesn't take place in New York.
Oh man, so burnt out.
Yeah.
All right, I got 2 more, and they're coming out on the same day, which is generally not a good thing for movies. But the first one that comes out on December 18th is Dune. Wow, that's a classic sci-fi book.
Finally.
Yeah, I mean, there was a movie in the 80s, and then there was like a sequel or prequel
Yeah.
in like the 90s. There was like 2 other movies.
Where George Lucas got his inspiration from.
So Dune was a novel written by Frank Herbert in 1965 is when it came out. And you're right, George Lucas was totally inspired by a number of elements from the Dune story, namely a desert planet and various other things of technology and things like that. So yeah, this is kind of one of the mini origins of Star Wars, which is Dune. I'm sure you could find a few other old school sci-fis out there that really inspired
I,
George as he grew up, but yeah, Dune's a big deal in sci-fi.
I hope the effects are as good as the current Star Wars movies.
Oh, of course, it's very high dollar. I mean, this franchise is almost always in the top 5 of sci-fi novels. Dune is, and so whoever's doing it is better be doing it justice, or they wouldn't get that honor because this is a big deal. So Dune is coming out on December 18th, which is going to be 2 days before my birthday. Yay! As of recording this, by the way, tomorrow's my birthday, so that's cool.
Happy birthday.
Yay. The other movie that's coming out on December 18th is Uncharted, which for you gaming nerds out there, yeah, that's the game. It's going to be adaptation of the game. I'm not sure which game's going to be turned into the movie or which period of the story, but yeah, exciting. And Tom Holland is going to be playing Nathan Drake, which is super cool. And then Mark Wahlberg is going to play Sully, his friend. So for those of you who are out of the loop as to what Uncharted is, it is a video game. The first one came out in 2007, and as of recording, the most recent one came out in 2017. So the main games of this franchise follow Nathan Drake, who's a treasure hunter, and he journeys across the world to find all kinds of cool relics and mysteries and do stuff like that. Kind of a Indiana Jones brought up to modern day, I think, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for them to do what they're gonna do with this and
Mhm.
have Harrison Ford talking about making another Indiana Jones. So it's
Oh
gonna be
no.
interesting.
Crossover. So that's it for my list of movies. Now I have a list of shows, but I want to pass the mic off to you, Nate. Why don't you tell us about your movies that are coming up?
James Bond 25. I'm excited because this might be the movie where they hand off the iconic James Bond role, and I
Mhm.
am not against it,
Mhm.
but to a female role.
Mm.
But anyways, he's recruited to rescue a kidnap for a scientist and stuff in this one. So interesting. I was watching some of the behind the scenes. I'm like, this doesn't feel like a James Bond movie, but I'm sure they're gonna surprise us. But this
Yeah.
movie comes out, I believe it's been has some rumors of changing the date, but April 8th, 2020.
Cool.
So I'm excited. Been a fan of James Bond for as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
I think I haven't seen all of them. How dare? But and it's gonna be starring Rami Malek, the guy that played Mr. Robot, or as for those that have just seen the movie that covered the band Queen,
Mhm.
he's going to be the villain. So this is going to be kind of interesting because he is playing an interesting role in this. But moving on, we are going to get into one of my favorite iconic movies that I've loved since a kid is Top Gun. And this will
Nice.
be coming out June 26th. It's going to be interesting. He went from the cocky kind of I'm Mr. Know-It-All to now he's kind of the superior. He's kind of like an Obi-Wan kind of role. But he gets to train all the graduates or graduates.
Graduees.
Um,
Graduates?
and yeah, and
Uh,
he gets to be kind of the seniority. But in the group of people that graduated is one of his best friend's son.
oh, cool.
From the first movie was Goose, and now his son is Rooster. so,
Not
so
chicken.
that's gonna be interesting. No, that'd be awful.
That's funny.
But he gets to face an upcoming mission that is kind of like, hey, don't know that really the outcome. And it's a big sacrifice. And when I was watching the trailer, it looks like they're going to enter. I could be wrong, and I probably will be, but it looks like they were introducing spacesuits. So I was like, whoa,
Oh,
hold on.
dang. Space planes.
Yeah, for real. Or just altitude, I guess. Maybe
Mhm.
it's the only thing I could think of. Man, I feel like a lot of these movies way back in the day are just rebooting.
Coming back.
Or coming out with some prequels and sequels,
Pretty
whatever.
much all of your whole list. Pretty much your whole list is like sequels and remakes. Nothing wrong with that.
Right? And moving on to the next, a really big franchise, Fast and Furious 9 comes out May 22nd, 2020.
Cool.
Now, this is a sequel to the 2017 The Fate of the Furious. And I don't know much about this. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm actually excited to see because the last one, not Hobbs and Shaw, but the actual franchise movie was crazy. That I feel like they're pushing these movies further and farther than I ever thought they would, or even what they thought. But we're getting crazy. Like we went from driving cars to now we're driving tanks. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, so much for car product placement.
Yeah. We went from a car movie to like a war movie.
Mhm.
So it's exciting. It's the number 9 movie, I guess number 10 because they brought out Hobbs and Shaw earlier this year or the end of last year. But
Yeah. No, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson do not like each other, so they don't want to be in a movie together.
that's what they say, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just a role and people are just adding to it, or maybe they're just trying to keep their friendship limited so they can see it on screen. But I don't know. I've not seen any of the actual reality beef that they have with each other.
Well, do you think
That'd be kind of funny.
Do you think Dwayne Johnson will be in movie 9, or do you hope he will?
I hope so because he's kind of worked his way to being an iconic role in the whole Furious. So, he brought the beat down, as he would say in the last one.
Awesome.
And so moving on, Bad Boys for Life, January 17th, 2020. And it's going to be our good boy Mike and Marcus, which is a duo that just seems like they're fighting the same war, the Miami drug cartel. But
Back at it
hopefully, I
again.
don't know. Yeah, for real. I feel like they're bringing a whole nother. I don't know. Like a lot of the movies that I'm saying are either continuations or they're kind of playing the seniority role, bringing a new crew in.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see after this one if they'll make another one. Who knows? But that's how the trailers were giving it. But you can't trust trailers these days. So
They'll have to wait another 20 years, and the third one will be Bad Boys out of retirement. They'll be old.
like what they want to do with Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, oh man.
So I was like, oh gosh. Anyways, should be interesting. So the next one is Doctor Dolittle. Now I find this odd. Doctor Dolittle's release date had a bunch of switches. It was trying to avoid Star Wars because Star Wars was supposed to come out early in the year, not December.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Dr. Dolittle said, you know what? We're going to pick January 17th, 2020. But if you just recognize what I said, Bad Boys also is going to be on the 17th of January. So two of these big, iconic people, Will Smith and Robert Downey Jr.
Which one will do better? I mean, they have different fan followings.
Yeah, for sure. You have like Marvel, and then you have like all Will Smith movies.
I'm going to call Doolittle right now. Maybe I'll be wrong in a few months.
Who doesn't want to see Sherlock Holmes be crazy with animals?
But he's like a nice guy now. He's not crazy.
Yeah. So this is going to be more along the book, the more of the fantasy side of stuff, which is the 19th century English stuff. So I saw some of the CGI. I was like, but it's fantasy. What do you expect? Yeah. I read the book when I was a kid. So the Dr. Dolittle I grew up on the movies was with Eddie Murphy. That was that was special. Yeah. But that wraps up all the movies that I am looking for. I mean, of course, the movies you listed, I'm looking forward to as well. But
I stole them first, so.
Yeah, pretty much. Just put it this way: everything Daniel listed, I'm looking forward to.
Ditto. Well. Cool. All right, so my shows, I've only got a few here. So my first on my list is Star Trek Picard, which is on CBS All Access. Now, I don't actually plan on watching this, mind you, because I don't want to. I don't want to mess with CBS All Access and canceling my membership and all that jazz. But I am just curious.
It's expensive, right?
Yeah, I don't need any more. I've got like 4 streaming services I'm paying for. I don't even know if I'll have time to watch this show. But I am curious about it because this is a huge expansion of the Star Trek universe. All of the stuff in the trailer is like they're doing some major callbacks and some major, storytelling.
Yeah.
Old actors and stuff like that. So I love that. So I'm anxious to hear about it from Josh because we know Josh will be watching it.
Well, like he said previously that he's into it. Sorry, Josh, if you're listening, but hopefully I don't misquote. He said he was open to the idea, but it was, as I understand, like a fine line of they could mess this up.
Sure. Or they could mess up anything.
It could be great, Yeah,
it's worth it. It's, at least give it a shot. So yes, Picard is happening. Looks interesting and very cool. Next is Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. So we've got our first show in Phase 4, and totally stoked about that. And the other shows are all coming out in 2021, which made me kind of sad. I was hoping something else would come out. Yeah, I mean, like all the other shows they're gonna make us wait another year for them.
We're getting a really long MCU pause for like a little break for a while.
Yeah. Now I'm not sure about What If. I wonder when that one's coming out. I didn't see that in the list I was looking at, so maybe that one's coming out next year. So next on my list is Space Force with Steve Carell. This looks so funny. It's basically the branch of the government that is Space Force, and I think he's a captain. Of the program. There's not a whole lot of footage out there yet of it because it's so new. So
yeah, I don't know much about this. Is it like a serious or is it a
comedy?
Comedic?
Yeah, it's comedy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a long time I thought it would be so funny to have basically The Office equivalent of comedy and setup, but instead of it being like a paper business like we have in The Office, Dunder Mifflin, but it would actually be the Illuminati, like secret society office. Or basically like there's different departments, like this department handles misinformation about space and like flat earth, and this one handles like assassinations and this one handles like economic collapse. Like that would be just so weird and kooky.
It would be weird.
And when I saw Space Force, I was like, all right, I'll take this one. Now this has nothing to do with what I just said. But it's a big corporation. There's important stuff, and this is actually based on some real world facts.
Yeah,
because the Space Force is real. And I have a friend that worked for the Space Force. She was in the Air Force.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel so cool.
we should totally get her on the episode. She can
Oh,
speak freely.
we'll have to like redact the whole episode.
We'll see what her clearance is before we get excited.
Yeah, we'll get shut down. So yeah, she works for the Air Force and she does something with satellites. I don't know if she controls or monitors
Wow.
satellites, but with the creation of the Space Force, she's kind of getting like brought in to the Space Force. And
Wow.
wow. Next is Brave New World, which is going to be on NBC's yet to be released streaming service named Peacock, because they have a peacock on their logo, and that's kind of a weird name for a streaming service. But whatever. I'm not a
Oh boy.
CEO, so Brave New World is based on the old novel from 1931 by the same name, Brave New World, and it's a dystopian novel by the
Wow.
English author Aldous Huxley. So it was published in
Whoa.
1932. And yeah, it's kind of a dark and gritty look at what the future could be. Not a great place, definitely dystopian, and you don't want to live there. But hey,
Yeah.
it makes for a good book, and now a good show. Just to be a rebel, I've got a weird entry here. Call the Midwife, season number 9. And this is like the least manly show I could possibly have on here. But
It's
my
okay.
wife loves this show, and I've watched a good amount of it, and it's actually quite entertaining. It's just that
Just embrace
it's
it.
that well made that I can watch a movie about birthing babies and midwifery, and I can actually enjoy it. It's a very good it's a very well made show.
You're the person to come to if all else fails.
So that's coming out next year, season 9. Woo!
Super.
I mean, I'm sure I'll be inadvertently watching it with my wife as I edit photos. So,
Subconsciously, I'll be paying attention.
yeah. All right, so that's it for my shows. What about you, Nate?
Well, I didn't actually have any list of shows coming up. I'm looking forward to the ones that you put down.
Yeah.
For the ones that I have access to. Like I said, don't hold me to that. I might get more streaming services, but we'll have to see.
You'll see how good the stuff is.
But so yeah, I agree with everything you said. So that, like I said, I don't have a list, but yeah.
All right, I wanted to close out this episode with kind of taking a look back on 2019 and some of the movies that didn't do too well.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah, and this is weird. So, movie failures, they call it box office failures or bombs, whatever,
Yeah.
is often just based on the numbers of money it was spent to make the movie and then how much money it made back.
And you and I have covered stuff like this before, like when the movie Solo came out. Critics are like, that's garbage. And then you and I saw that, like, that was great.
This is awesome. I love this movie. Like, I'll watch it again. I want to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like quote unquote failures in movies. It's often based on the numbers, which doesn't really say anything about the story or the quality or the acting or anything. So they're totally separate measurements of failure or success. These movies are on here mostly because of the money failures, not to say that the story or the visuals or anything like that is bad. And I've only seen one of these. So the first one is Terminator Dark Fate. And I did actually hear a lot of people saying that they thought it was bad. Like they watched it and they were like, yeah, I didn't like it. And I don't get that. I watched it and it was so much fun. I saw it with my dad and my brother. It is like a total guy movie. Even though the main actors are all 3 women, I loved it. And it was super exciting. The visuals were like top notch. I mean, the story was interesting, and yeah, it was a fun movie. I don't have any real problems
And
with it.
for it to be a new movie, I feel like they evolved but kept the Terminator theme in the new movie. It was even though it's totally different actors, like we have a lot of additional people, it felt like a Terminator movie.
Yeah, well, they kept the 2 original actors, Arnold and the lady who plays
Yeah.
the mom, Sarah Connor. That apparently didn't do well. I don't have the numbers on it, but it got a lot of negativity. Next one that got a whole lot of negativity, which totally surprised me, with X-Men Dark Phoenix. So from the trailers, this movie looked amazing. Like this looked like Infinity War Endgame type stuff. And I was totally stoked about watching it. And then a bunch of people saw it. They're like, it was actually pretty bad. I'm like, what? What trailer did I watch?
That's why I say you can't trust the
You
trailers.
really can't. You can't trust trailers, and you can't trust film critics.
Well, we've covered that before, where the trailers are made by a totally different company.
Oh yeah, and they may have shots that didn't make it cut in the movie, so you're seeing stuff you'll never see in the movie, and they can tell a different story. Like currently, like for example, the Rise of Skywalker. I feel like those trailers are just full of so much misdirection, and I'm seeing it tomorrow, so I'll be able to say yes or no on that. But I just feel like they're really tricking us, and that happens with a lot of trailers. Just
Yeah.
taking in directions that are not really true to the movie. Next on this list was Charlie's Angels. This one had an interesting little tidbit pop up in my feed a while back, where one of the actresses says that it failed because the main, the cast was women primarily.
Hmm?
That apparently men don't want to see movies with women in them, like doing action.
False.
Yeah, I'm like, again, Terminator Dark Fate, 3 women. It was great. I think that movie just failed because it had really bad marketing. I barely heard any much about it. There wasn't a lot of fuss.
Well, I mean, like for the Terminator movie, the box sales was 255.9 million, and their budget was anywhere from like, this is call it 96 million. So I'm like,
Mm.
what?
So they
They
made,
did good, I thought.
yeah, so they made over their budget, which is good. That means they made about $50 million profit, but that's not a whole lot with a movie like this.
No, it's not great, but it's
Yeah,
not bad.
it is profit. Better than not profit. Next on my list is Tolkien, which I would really like to see. It's more of a biography about Tolkien's life and him writing the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit stories and his marriage and stuff like that. So
It was a trippy trailer to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, it jumped into his imagination. We're like, wait, is this a clip from Lord of the
Yeah, I was
Rings?
like, whoa.
So that movie on the opening weekend, it made $2.1 million, which I think is pretty dang good. And then the global gross, so the movie gets shown in other countries around the world, and
Yeah.
I'm guessing also on the same weekend. I don't know how they measure the time here, but that made 7.7 million. That's quite a lot of money.
So the budget for the Tolkien movie, they had $20 million in the box office. They only made $9 million.
Okay, so that's a good example. So they spent a lot of money making it, but they didn't even make half of it back. Yeah.
Somebody paid out a lot of money.
Ouch. That means investors are not happy. Next one is Hellboy with David Harbour, one of our favorites from Stranger Things. And even though the trailers did look really good, like I just feel like there wasn't a whole lot of talk about this when it came out.
Yeah.
Didn't hear people saying, "Oh my god,
And
I gotta see it."
I don't know. From the first couple Hellboys to this one, everybody was like, nah.
So different.
I was like, dang.
I love the first 2 Hellboys, and I really wanted them to finish off with a good trilogy, a third one, but man, they didn't make it. Very sad.
And the actor that played Hellboy, he couldn't do it. I don't know why he didn't.
Yeah, I think he wanted to too, if I'd read that right. He was basically saying, "I want to do this. Let's make it happen." So the global gross for that movie was 21.8 million,
Yeah.
but they spent $50 million making it. So they didn't even make half.
In the box office, they got 44.6 million.
Oh, close. So close.
Yeah. But no cigar.
Mm-hmm. Replicas. This movie was another failure, and in most people's opinions. And this is actually seems to be due to the story and the acting. My brother saw it. He's like, "Yeah, it was just kind of another, run of the mill sentience transfer. Like, wasn't great."
I saw that one in the $2 movie theater, and my dad leaned over. He's like, is this a horror movie? And I was like, oh shoot, I didn't actually, the way some of the parts, I was like, ooh, wait, hold on.
Yeah. So the global gross for this movie was 4 million, and the production budget was 30 million.
Yeah, in the box office, I'm reading here, they only made 9.2 million back.
Ooh. And now when I say production budget, now I'm curious, does that not include like paying the actors or other things non-production related?
Yeah, and I find it super odd that Keanu was in that. That was like the one movie he was in and just dud.
Yeah. Yeah, that's odd. When a guy like him isn't in a lot of movies, I feel like it's because he's being very selective. So part of me wonders if he read the script. He's like, this is going to be great, not the next Matrix because
Yeah.
that's impossible. But he's like, this is going to be good, guys. I'm all in. And then it comes out and it's like, oh, it wasn't that cool. Just weird. It's weird that he was in it and it wasn't awesome. Because we all love us,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves. Well, hopefully he'll redeem himself in Matrix 4.
Oh, and then he's gonna release 2 movies on one date. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, John Wick 3.
I hope
Or
4.
4.
It's 4 and 4 for both movies.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
funny.
please don't.
crossover.
Yeah, right. And John Wick, he stops the bullets with his hands.
Oh my gosh, someone's gonna do that in CGI. You know they will.
Oh, for sure. Or some fan art's gonna be out there.
Yeah, John Wick is the chosen one from the 7th universe of the Matrix, seventh reboot. That'd be so perfect.
He is the chosen one.
That's why he's so skilled. He can almost control everything. Awesome. All right. Well, that is our episode 99. Thank you so much for listening. We would love to hear from you if there are any movies or shows that we missed that you're looking forward to seeing. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast because next week's episode is going to be an awesome one. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite sci fi topics, time travel. We're finally diving into this topic. It's been a long time running where I've been wanting to do this episode, and it's finally happening. And it's going to be deep and timey-wimey and awesome. So make sure you don't miss that episode. It's going to be a good one. And again, thanks for listening. We will see you next week. If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
I don't know. Disney could have done the same thing, picked a mouse. So it's Mouse Plus.
Yeah.